Welcome e-commerce empresses to this episode of Woman Powering Ecommerce. Join me every Tuesday and Thursday as I take you behind the scenes of my journey as a female e-commerce entrepreneur. Together, we'll explore the highs, the lows, inspiring you to take action and achieve your own business goals. So let's get started. Today, I want to talk about the importance of learning on an ongoing basis through books when you own a business. It is so important. If you do not do that, you will miss out on a really big part of growing your business through those, or just as you personally. And when you grow a business, you realize with time that you need to grow personally, because if you don't, then you're going to limit your business and you're not going to be able to grow it because you're not growing yourself. So 10 or 15 years ago, I read no books. Yes, maybe a little book here and there. When we went on vacation, I'd read a fictional book, and that was about it. I used to not really like reading just because all I remembered from reading was reading a little bit when I was younger. Those books I appreciated. And then I went to college. We had some books we had to read those. They were okay, but not books of my choice. And then I went to work and stopped reading. That was about it. So I can tell you how much it was limiting me. What if, that's still a question I ask myself today. What if I never took on that habit? Where would I be? What would I know? To be honest, I would not be at all where I am today. I don't even want to ask myself that question for too long because I realize how much it has changed me for the better. So I'm not sure how I would have done without those. So I remember the first business book I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you have not read that book, you are missing out on a really great book. Please go and grab that book today. No choice. And if you've read it, well, you know how good of a book it is. And it was, especially when it's your first business book, it's like going from blind to seeing for the first time. It was just, I discovered new concepts, new ways of seeing things. I became much more open-minded all of a sudden. I learned that life lessons can be learned from others. You don't have to go through your mistakes. And that was a really good first book. But I read other great books. I learned a lot of lessons from other books. But for this book in particular, just as an example, just to show you how much one book can change you. In this book, if I remember properly, what I learned is the rich make their money work for them. And I had never came across that concept as an employee. I realized my only thoughts at the time were I could ask maybe for a salary raise if I wanted to make more money, or maybe change. I didn't even have the luxury, at least I thought I didn't have the luxury of changing job positions, or I was so limited in my head. But how much can you really make when you're an employee? Those are pretty much your two options. Or you have to go back to school, and that was definitely not an option for me. I also learned not to be controlled by your emotions. There's lots to learn there. I used to be so stressed all the time. Every time we were talking about money, it just generated that stress within me. Anytime I had to do accounting, I remember first couple of years we owned a business. It was time to do the accounting. I don't know why to this day. I worked on myself, and I don't really need to know why anymore. I think I do from the way I was raised, and my parents had businesses, and it wasn't a glorious thing to do the accounting, but that will be for another story. But I was doing the accounting on a monthly basis. I feel like I was not understanding anything. I was on the ground crying. And that was like monthly. So eventually I did something about it, but I was just so overwhelmed with stress and not understanding what triggered me at the time. So, and talking about emotions again, not being controlled by them. I used to have the fight or flight. I used to flight. I used to run away from really big emotions and just not confront them. So that was a really good lesson. I also learned to manage risk, not to avoid it, but to learn to take controlled risk and manage them. So all of those were good lessons from this book. So I don't want to say too much. If you haven't read it, then great, go ahead and do it. And then you'll know what I'm talking about, but great life lessons. Other books that really helped me grow and learn, if we're going to bring it down more to e-commerce, is .com Secret by Russell Brunson. If you haven't read that, go and read it, please. It's one of the greatest marketing books. It's a comprehensive guide that reveals the strategies and tactics to build a successful online business. And it teaches you how to generate high converting sales funnels. So definitely a great book. He also has a series. That's a must. You have to read that. Another book that I really loved, yes, it has to do with e-commerce, but just it's heartwarming, is Delivering Happiness, the story of Zappos. It just teaches you the importance of creating a culture of happiness and customer satisfaction. And I find the storytelling in that book is just great. It just makes you want to be a better human being, better boss, better company. And I loved it. I truly loved it. So definitely a good book I'd recommend. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of books you can read. You can just, if you don't know what to read, I personally, I don't even go online to check like for the list of top books to read, because I hear recommendations from so many people here and there, or you're on social media, you'll hear about this book. Then I just keep a reading list, a list of books I want to read eventually. I have so much. And so every time I finish a book or I'm about to finish a book, usually I know already what I'm going to read, but if I don't, I have that list and I can just go to it and know exactly what to read next, or order the book, and to make sure I always have a book I can read. So question for you. First of all, do you read? If not, start today, please. You're missing out on so much. And if not, then if you do, then great. How much do you read? I'd be curious. I personally read now a minimum of 10 to 15 pages a day of a book. That's for me a non-negotiable. It's too valuable not to do it. I used to read about 10 pages, but I just bumped it up to about 15. Maybe eventually I'll read, I don't know how much a day. How much can you read it in a day without, we still have to work and I'll do all that stuff. So we'll see, but I just love reading. And the lessons you learn from others, you don't have to learn from your mistakes. And again, I don't want to think too much about, about where I'd be if I haven't started reading, or what would have happened if I inverse it. What would have happened if I started reading earlier? So if you have kids and maybe they're starting their teenage years, maybe they're in their late teenage years, please get them reading as soon as possible. That's such a good legacy to give them, to the desire to read, show them the power of reading, all those lessons that can be learned through books. Also, reading it allows you to change the way you think. You'll develop new ways of thinking. So how I think today is definitely not how I thought a few years ago. So it's very valuable to reach business goals. I know the books I read today, I try to read the books today for what I want to be in a few years or next year. I want to try and grab the knowledge that I need to be where I need to be at in a few years. So you want to make sure you do that through books too. There are a lot of other ways, of course, but definitely that's one way to go. So just maybe a lesson wrap up for today is just the power of continuously learning through books, and that's a key driver to help you grow your business. So do it, and if you're doing it, can you do more? Because that's how you're going to grow a lot. So before we wrap this up, I would like to express how much it would mean to me if you could take a moment, it takes a few seconds, rate, share this podcast or this episode. And your support is crucial in helping us reach and inspire more women entrepreneurs. That's definitely the goal, especially in the e-commerce business. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. I hope you gained some valuable insights and inspiration today to keep learning, growing, and taking action towards your goals. See you in the next episode.